featuring our discussion of the FX original series Taboo, episode 4 of season 1, or maybe just the whole series is just one season. I don't know. What I do know is I'm your host, Foxman, and I'm joined by a man whose mother swears he's the handsomest Boob Tube Buddy. What up, Mothman?
My mom does swear that.
I know she does.
Okay, we are on episode 5, right?
Fucking tits. God damn it. I bone that every single goddamn time.
Oh, man. Copy and paste, brother. Worst of me.
No, the worst part is that I didn't copy and paste, because last episode I said episode 4 of season 3. Remember I said season 3 last week?
That's right. Yeah.
So I just wrote a completely different wrong set of... that's cool. That's cool.
Well, anyway, for those of you joining us the first time, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, or best of all, our website, boobtubebuddies.com. Isn't that right, Fox?
You are so conditioned, Pavlov's dog style, because you literally read it out in the order that I do every time.
I mean, I was just reading your notes.
Yeah, but we do like hearing from you guys. We'll make sure your thoughts, theories, everything like that make it on air. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. And I think we can go ahead and launch into our first segment, which most of you guys already know. But for those of you who don't, in 140 characters or less, we like to sum up the episode in a segment that we call Summon It Up in a Tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up. Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up and up.
Tweet.
Okay, do you mind if I go first? I'm really excited.
But I always want you to go first.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. Okay.
Oh, what the fuck?
All right, ready? Man on the horse. All right, I think I should wrap this one. I wrap these now, right?
It always sounds so sweet when you do.
Man on the horse got sliced and diced. The company man's head went blam. Some dum-dum lost his thumb, and the lady is just... Yeah, this one's not a rap. I'm going to read it. Man.
This would be a way better as like an Aesop's Fable, like Mother Goose rhyme, rather than a fucking rap.
I forgot that I started as a rap, but there's like, I only had 5 minutes, so I was like, I'm not going to make this work. My bad.
As soon as I heard Dum Dum Thumb, I knew that you needed to restart.
Man on the horse got sliced and diced. The company man's head went blam. Some dum-dum lost his thumb, and Delaney is just getting started, man.
All right, woo!
Yeah!
Okay.
That was with one character left.
All right, so mine's no better, so that's why I didn't really rip on you too hard. So mine is, Duel with the Fool ends in DQ. Don't rat on Bane because he sees you. The skeezy chemist wants his mum-in-law. Sir Stuart Strange about to get fucked raw, and that is Summon It Up in a Tweet.
Okay, so let's get into the episode. We talked quite a bit last week about how we still like the show and are on board, but at the same time, if you listen back, like there weren't a lot of wow moments. We were kind of getting bored.
Yeah, that is definitely fair to say, and I actually thought that this was a pretty good episode. To me, it got back on track from what I did not like about last week.
Yeah, I agree. Some action happened for one, which my tweet alluded to.
Hey, what do you think the show is? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what do you think
okay.
the show is rated on IMDb? I know the answer. I'm asking you.
What do I think it's rated on IMDb?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
out of 10.
I'm gonna say it's probably in the 8s because there's probably not too many people that have rated it yet on IMDb.
Okay, so 8 what?
Oh, you want me to go to the decimal?
Oh, I want you to go all the way down to, well, yeah, 1.
That's literally 100 options.
Okay, well, hey, that's just how close you get. It doesn't, I don't expect you to get right on it. 8.3. Well, it's actually a 9.1, and it's got over 20,000 people that have rated it.
So why don't you, well, if you pull up Westworld then.
Pull open oh, okay, because you want to see what Westworld is rated by comparison.
But also just in like amount of reviews, 142,000 for Westworld at 9.1. Suck it, Taboo.
Well, I mean,
I love that they both are 9.1s
episodes
though.
In.
I do love that they're both 9.1s though.
Oh, of course, I pulled up Westworld, the movie, like a fucking dingbat, which is a 7.0, which is probably generous.
Yeah, I was about to say 6.7.
Because I always, I'm obviously, I love my little Reddits, but the Westworld subreddit talks about the movie like it's great, and it's like,
No.
I fucking love the TV show, and honestly, you and I, we enjoyed watching the movie. But
Yeah.
it's not some masterpiece. And if people are painting it out to be so, I think that a lot of people just like to glorify older movies sometimes, even though some of them just are campy, even beyond the fact that they had to use shitty practical effects back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors at play, but I think we actually did this on one podcast where you said you just don't like old movies. To which I was like, well, what about Jaws? What about Exorcist? There's a lot of movies like, oh yeah, those are fine. The acting is
you
good.
threw a ton at me that were from around that time period, and I liked like basically all of them.
Yeah, so that's my kind of point, is that there are absolutely old movies and older movies that you kind of give a little bit in terms of performance because it's kind of par for the times. But there's also ones that just are timeless. That's not one of them. It comes off as campy. I don't know how it played in 1970, whatever, but it comes off as campy. It's fun, but it doesn't stand the test of time like plenty of other movies from that era do.
Hey, remember when we got that YouTube comment about the fact that we don't get into the content of the episodes quickly enough, and then we never listened, and we always go off on tangents before we get into the episode?
Yeah, but that was more targeted about us just like peddling our wares. We haven't talked almost at all about paying us. Actually,
okay.
Right?
No, I think the one on there was saying that I don't know. I think it was just saying we don't get into the content soon enough. Then again, I also received one the other day that called me racist. So
it was pretty polite. It was pretty polite, though. You guys have issues with race, don't you?
I mean, I feel like, doesn't everybody have it? Shouldn't we all be aware of race and address it as, like, the world has issues with race?
You know what? I think everyone has issues with race. I don't think it matters who you are. It doesn't mean you're racist. But you know what? I think the Boob Tube Buddies are particularly woke and brave in that we work through our issues on air.
Wow, dude. That was way more eloquent than how I could have put it. Great job.
Thanks, man. I try. And we
I
probably
was just
should
going to
get the
drop an
show
N-word and say, let's move on.
Oh, God. You are not. You never would.
I never in a million years would drop that word.
Oh, God. Okay,
so, all right, let's talk about the Duel first off. Do you think it lived up to the hype, or do you think that it was a little disappointing?
A little disappointing, but I was okay with it. And I think when I would have been really pissed is if no one died. But since that company man's head just exploded like a melon, I got my bloodlust satisfied.
I was hoping that he was gonna that after the brother-in-law missed, I was hoping Delaney was just gonna Andrew Jackson the shit out of him.
Just beaten to death with a cane.
No, Andrew Jackson got into that duel with that one guy that wrote for the newspaper or something like that, and then the guy shot him first, and then but he, like, not mortally, like, he didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And Andrew Jackson just sat there basically for a second, and then pulled up his gun and just blasted, like, killed the guy in one shot. Whereas, like, the etiquette of the time, which obviously you can tell watching this episode, and particularly this scene, there is an etiquette around it. Like, it is,
yes,
like a very refereed event.
I don't have a second, but you need a second. I didn't bring one. Well, can the lady be yours? Fine.
Yeah. So Andrew Jackson, I guess, apparently what he did was not against the rules, but it was definitely considered, like, bad form.
Yeah. So what I was referencing, I guess I got the two confused. I think I've maybe heard that story, but Thomas Jefferson it was. Someone had an attempt on his life. He pulled a gun, pulled the trigger, misfired. He had a second gun, pulled the trigger, misfired. This is the assassin. To which Thomas Jefferson then, like, beat the dude to death with his cane.
That's pretty awesome.
It's just, what are the odds that both guns misfire? The guy's like, oh fuck, and then it's just street fight.
Oh, that's pretty fucking rad. I wonder sometimes about these stories, like, what kind of account we're getting 200 years later, you know?
I do too. I mean, that was brought up in a conversation where we were basically shitting all over Thomas Jefferson about how racist he was and all the terrible things he did.
Was
that
it
was
the
one
same
of the few.
conversation where we couldn't remember what year America was founded?
No. I was having it with people that are much better with history than either of us are,
okay,
so they're
good.
kind of like my bumpers. And that was one of the. Yeah, he was a terrible person, but he does have a few, kind of interesting and badass moments, and that was one of them. So I do feel like some of them are a game of telephone and they get glorified, but I also feel like if all the terrible stuff also lasted, and then that did too, maybe, it was something kind of close to that, I like to think.
I feel like Thomas Jefferson had some issues with race.
Very much so.
Do you think his YouTube commenters would have had something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, particularly when it comes to Native Americans or indigenous people, which I think we've been, if any, of any group, very good to on the show, don't you?
Yeah, above all others, maybe the Jews too, but definitely indigenous peoples.
Yeah, but that's just because those are your people.
Them is my
Lip,
people.
lip service is what you're doing there.
So I do like the fact that we basically find out immediately why the gun misfired, because I thought it was just going to be like just a thing. Like we just have to kind of accept that happened all the time with how unreliable guns
Well, I was
were
just
back then.
confused because I was like, why is there a stain? It looks like all it shot was gunpowder. Because misfire usually like, the barrel explodes or breaks. It's something weird, but then he immediately gives it away.
Yeah, exactly. Man, Delaney is really all over it. Basically, the only time where anybody ever gets the best of him is Doug Stamper.
Yeah. That crafty American every goddamn time. He's always being outsmarted by him.
Exactly. And, man, the brother-in-law, not super nice to the sister this episode, huh?
No, not particularly. He gets home. He one lies to her and says that like Delaney's dead just to see the look on her face. And she kind of knows he's fucking around, but then he's like, you would have rejoiced if he dead, but now you're stuck with me.
If he dead?
If he did, bro, you would.
Damn, dude, you're fucking rapping that shit over there. Bust a Mothman.
Wait, I don't actually know if he. Oh, was is the word I was forgetting. Anyway, it was just so natural.
And it's not even just celebrating. He says, "Oh, okay, so you sent the housekeeper out. Is she getting potatoes or is she getting champagne? Like basically, like is it business as usual or were you trying to celebrate my death?"
Yeah. Or were you trying to get ready to celebrate his death? That wouldn't have proved anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Either way, if she got champagne, what is he gonna? I mean, because she could just lie about it. And obviously, like she hugged him when he came in, so she's already good at kind of playing the part a little bit.
Yeah, and as long as she doesn't accidentally mutter his name when she's asleep, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh man, the fucking. Let's just go ahead and talk a little bit more about some of their stuff throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Fuck going linear. So what did you think? Obviously, the scene where she's dreaming about him and he walks in and sees it and like beats the shit out of her. That's no good. But the exorcism thing, I feel like that priest wasn't really performing an exorcism so much as like he was just taking money from the brother-in-law to grab all over her haystacks with his sweaty palms.
I do too. I think he's definitely a snake oil salesman and a charlatan of the lowest order.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And so she goes in, and what was she holding up? Like at the foot of his bed, was that like a poker of some sort?
I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was just kind of like her, hasty way of trying to defend herself when she's obviously, outnumbered. I thought the whole exorcism.
No. I mean, after the exorcism, after she's been untied and the brother-in-law is laying in bed and she walks in and she starts saying something to the effect of like, let's see here. I wrote it down. Oh, it's like, teach me, guide me. And then the brother-in-law's like, what was that, bitch? And she's like, oh, nothing. But she was like holding some like long stick needle poker thing in her hand. And then she like hastily throws it back in the drawer.
Oh,
Did you not catch that? I couldn't quite tell what was happening. I was watching this
I didn't
on
know
a
what it
new
was.
screen, and it was dark as shit.
Yeah, what I gather, though, is I think she's about to kill him. And I think she's going to, like... I don't know. I think she's trying to learn the dark arts from her brother and is going to kill him kind of as part of that. Because, I mean, otherwise he's going to kill her eventually.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I mean, it's getting to that point. Like, it went from him just being the worst to now being, like, physically abusive, and then to immediately it turning into, let's exorcise the demons that are kind of there, you know, like, because he does seem to be having sex with her from afar, like, through his magic and, like, you know, the stuff he's doing. You know, there's different times we've seen him do spells. He seems to be connecting with someone. We've heard about him talking to his father from across the continent. So that's the odd thing about it is, like, she obviously is a willing participant, but at the same time, he is kind of invading her, I don't know, whatever that you would call that.
Her dream space?
Yeah, I guess the liminal space, like the space between being awake and not quite being asleep.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah. So I say all of that to say maybe, like, I'm curious how much he's actually influencing her and how much it is just her yearning for him at this point. I doubt he's playing nice and not bothering her anymore just because they had the duel, you know?
Yeah, they did make it seem like that dream, though, might have just been her, you know, having the night hornies for him or something.
Yeah, no. I think her, what do they call it? Nocturnal emissions?
The fuck? Jesus Christ, Mothman.
As if that sounded bad. That was a very
After I
clinical
just said
term.
having the night hornies. At least you use a technical term. I called them night hornies.
Anyway, no, you're right. That one seemed like a normal, just night horny. Whereas
I don't like listening to you say that.
whereas there have been some in the past where it was clear that it was completely, not completely, but it was clear he was reaching out to her. They implied that by, like, scenes being cut back and forth.
And I apologize for jumping around a little bit, but okay, so the documents that Coop ends up with that they are going to use to open up the inquiry into that ship sinking that the African American guy is going to head up against Sir Stuart Strange. Are those documents the ones that that one soldier found when they were rifling through different people's houses and work and stuff like that?
I'm pretty sure they are.
Okay, cool. So then that was Sir Stuart Strange's house or what? Because that was a shitty little room. That surprised me to find out that was anything to do with him. I would have figured everywhere he goes or everything that's his would have been more ornate and not as shitty as that place was.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what the place looked like. I just remember they were, like, ransacking different places and trying to find documents. There have been these different parties conspiring, and then they showed up. I just drew that conclusion. I mean, unless those are just papers we're about to find out about next episode, this whole thing happened behind the scenes.
The other question I really wanted to ask, because now I'm very confused, is the boy. I thought that the boy was supposed to be like his younger brother, but at some point the chemist says something like, "That's your son, right?" And he doesn't react to it. So, I mean, am I just a fucking dum-dum thumb, or is he actually his son?
Well, now that he's called him his son, I think I was just following your lead when you said, like, younger brother. Maybe it's, well, I don't know how old, I wonder, are they supposed to be? Is it conceivable that this is the love child of him and his sister?
I can't remember how long he was gone. I thought he was gone for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's now been said that it's his son, whether it's the son with her. I think it's their incest love child.
I still think that it's his brother. I don't know. It's just the ages of it don't work for me, or maybe they do. Who fucking cares? Okay, I didn't know if maybe you had like a more substantial answer than I do, but we're both confused about it, right? Do you think we're just dumbasses? Like, is everybody listening? Do you know what's going on there? Is it definitely the son or definitely the brother?
Yeah, please let us know. Solve this mystery.
Absolutely. Okay, so I apologize. I've been kind of jumping around a little bit, but what did you think about the part where Delaney is riding through the countryside and throws that one creep off his horse and that fucking dagger that he had?
Oh man, yeah,
one that looked like a little scythe or sickle. That was
it's like
nasty.
a little fish hook. Yeah, he slices there's a lot of slicing with anyone he runs into, whether it's the dude, right? Like the guy he hit with fish hooks last episode that the Americans sent after him. He continues to be followed. It's continually by one person, which is never a good idea. But he finds this dude who I just took it to be that he realized he was following him. So
which is never a good idea. We've talked about this multiple times. Why do they always send one fucking guy after Grandmaster Slash? Like, they never, ever send a fucking tandem. It's always a single lone guy who's going to get fucking ripped to shreds, you say.
Meanwhile, they won't even let you participate in a duel without a second.
that's right? A good point. It's fucking ridiculous.
To have someone to fucking hand you your fucking pistol and watch. Meanwhile, when you're just gonna murder someone in the streets, you're just gonna go solo. It's ridiculous.
And I mean, it's not like these people that are having him tailed are like of limited resources. So what the fuck is happening? It's so stupid.
This is the only one that didn't really bother me that it was one person, and only because it was meant to be tailing. Like, I think this guy was recon, not meant to interact whatsoever. He obviously wasn't following close because Delaney was able to get far enough ahead, circle back, and end up, behind the dude. I think he was just trying to figure out where this is probably the guy that let Doug Stamper know where the place is at.
But he hadn't made it all the way there yet.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. So this might be someone for East India, and because he just slices the guy and says, "Tell your friends," because someone obviously has made it that far and knows that, or the chemist is blabbering, but I don't think that's the case.
Maybe Doug Stamper sent this dude by himself, but then also had other guys following that, and that this guy was supposed to be like the decoy so that Delaney could like have the satisfaction of feeling like he took somebody that was on his trail off of it, and then maybe like the real guy tailing him was laying in wait.
Maybe they sent like 3 or 4 recon guys in different directions, and this happens to be the one that he caught.
What do you think about the chemist? Like, do you like him as a character? Do you think he's like fucking Dingleberry or what?
He's the Dingleberry, but I do like him as a character.
I like him too. I like how he now has like this infatuation with the mother-in-law after seeing her at the party.
Yeah, and he wants to lay with her. He's like, no, you're not going to make whatever they call it in those times.
He says something to the effect of she's in the large group of women I would sleep with, and also in a smaller group of women that I would flog the dolphin to.
He doesn't say flog the dolphin to.
Actually, kind of funny is verbatim what I said to Bethany's father when I asked if I could take her hand in marriage.
I'm sure that went over really well. But the best thing is you have the quote written down in your notes, but it was you put two, like T-O-O. So I read it as, smaller group he would flog the dolphin too.
I did fuck that up. Fuck you. Going through my goddamn notes and ripping me apart for him.
But that was a funny scene. I like how he kind of has a sidekick character because he interacts with a lot of people. Very few of them are likable. I feel like he has a lot of sidekick characters. Well, Brace, mother-in-law, this dude right here now too. He kind of has Winter a little sometimes. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He interacts with a lot of people, but very few of them are they really like building up and developing, or do you like? Also, few of them are like really partners, right? So like Brace just kind of is at the house, but he also isn't trying to have Brace do a whole lot for him. The mother-in-law, he's basically not wanting him to, like, her to be there and trying to get her out of the picture. You know, everyone else almost seems like an inconvenience, whereas this is like, you know, do my bidding for me type of character.
To be fair, that's exactly how Brace is. It's like, do my bidding. And the mother-in-law is do my bidding. And basically anybody that he deals with, Atticus, everybody, it's do my bidding. Like,
I guess I'm happy.
Not like a give and take kind of guy.
That is true. He doesn't let anyone in. He grunts half the time.
You know who he reminds me of? Come on, dude. You fucking know he is.
Of course.
Just like you.
He is pretty similar to me. Oh,
my God.
My hulking
similar
lats
build
and all.
and everything. Yes, you knew where I was going with it.
I've never felt like there was a better time for an audible break.
I totally agree. All right, let's just kick to it. I have nothing else to add to that.
Yeah. Get your free month trial to Audible at www.audibletrial.com/Boob Tube Buddies. Why the funky beat, you ask? I wanted to download the book Making Music Your Business, a guide for young musicians, but first, I wanted to see if I had what it took to make music.
English, motherfucker!
I guess some of us just don't got it. I'll stick to podcasting and never do anything like this again. Seriously, swear to God I won't. If you go to www.audibletrial.com/BoobTubeBuddies, it's a free month for you and money in our pockets. Over 180,000 titles to choose from, like Making Music Yo Business, a guide for young musicians. Drop the beat, little buddies.
And we are back. Hey, thanks for letting me do it this time, Mothman.
Hey, every now and then I have to throw you a bone, right?
Very true. Thanks, Delaney. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about the scene where he's in the river, covered in ash, communing with nature, I guess. I was a little confused by that scene because it seemed like one of his weird flashbacks at first, because he is always seeing who I think is his mom in the river, like the creepy spider lady.
I'm pretty sure it's his mom, especially with what he says later on when he's going through the letters. Yeah,
toast my goats. But I was confused why it seemed like he was actually there in the river doing that stuff, or was he just like poltergeisting to it?
I think he's poltergeisting to it. I mean, I think they're trying to show him just kind of be at the shore doing his thing, but, they just make it all flashier and whatnot.
Okay, all right. I guess during that he has a vision of an explosion, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing. He has premonitions. Like earlier when he was wiping colored ash on his face and he was by the fireplace, he was having flashbacks to being in Africa and that person approaching him with a sharpened stick. So every time he has these, you see some of them. The one we were talking about earlier with his interaction with his sister, like through this witchcraft or whatever it's called, similar thing. We saw him doing a ceremony and then saw her having the night monies.
It's night hornies. But the shot
right.
of him in the water is actually the shot that was used in a lot of the promotional images for the show. I recognized it specifically because I put up when I put our show on YouTube, I just attach usually probably like between 30 and 50 images from the show, like stills. Yeah. And that's one of the ones that I always notice on there.
Yeah, it's there's one thing this show really does well is just aesthetics and visuals, and pacing aside and some of the more boring moments aside, it has a lot of memorable pieces. And I'm trying to think of the other memorable promo shots that just haven't happened yet. The main one that I think of is what I assume is in Africa when he's just in the cloth and in the white paint.
God damn it, dude. Every episode, seriously, you're going to talk about him in the fucking loincloth? Go ahead. I know what's coming next. I know what it is.
It's just you just gave me the segue.
I already know you fucking sent that picture into Walgreens, had it blown up into one of those gigantic movie poster things, hung it up above your bed, and it's part of that small group that you masturbate to, just like the Chemist.
Unfortunately, though, it's right above my bed, and when I lay back at night, you still can't see under the loincloth.
God fucking damn it. All right, moving on. So I know you eat a bunch of weird shit on your diet. the Prince Regent eating that gigantic egg. What did you think about that?
Oh God, my mouth was watering. there's a local, not local, it's in Maitland, but there's like a organic market, like all from like farms and local farms and stuff, and they have
At
duck
Lake
eggs.
Lily?
No, it's at the corner. It's on Ronald Reagan, like right before 436.
That's not Maitland.
Longwood, then. I think it's Longwood.
Okay, Ronald Reagan and 436. There's a market there.
Well, it's not on the corner. You have to go
Oh yeah, it's right next to Pon Pon, the Colombian bakery.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I go there all the time. I fucking love Pon Pon.
So it's on the corner there. But anyway, they had a sign out for duck eggs the other day, which I've heard are delicious, but no one ever sells them. So I love eggs. He's just really gross at eating anything.
Well, what produces an egg as large as this? It looks like a goddamn bread bowl. I mean, is it?
I mean,
what do you
he's
think
rich. It's an ostrich egg.
An ostrich egg. Okay,
Yeah, it's got to be an ostrich egg. It's got to be.
Okay, so that was gross. We don't have to talk. I actually,
If you eat the ostrich egg, eat it raw. It's good and you can box.
All right, thanks, Rocky.
Yeah.
I don't really like his character, and I think a huge part of it is because I fucking hate the prosthetics and the makeup.
Yeah, I mean, he was
He
supposed to
looks
be
like a goddamn buffoon.
Yeah, I mean, he apparently was readily made fun of during his time and was like a joke in society. I mean, he was basically the whatever century kind of Donald Trump.
You can't fucking help yourself, can you?
I can't. The best part, I just recorded Legion with Nathan, and the
God damn it.
The funniest part of the whole episode was a joke I made that was not on the nose at all. And Nathan paused for 6 seconds, then laughed maniacally, and then had to explain the 4 thoughts his mind went through before he got the joke. And then we just sipped tea, put on our monocles, and talked about how highbrow we were, that it was that intelligent each joke we put out was.
Oh god, that makes me fucking sick.
You know me, typical left-wing elitist.
You fucking libtard.
Eating my ostrich eggs.
So what did you think about the fact that Doug Stamper is purposefully infecting people with cholera just to make it less pleasant for him to be visited by people from the Crown or East India Trading Co.?
A pretty shitty thing to do. I mean, it is typical, like, early American playbook. I mean, didn't we intentionally...
Also just typical Doug Stamper.
Yeah, that's true, too. But, didn't we just, like, intentionally poison the Native Americans or indigenous people with blankets?
Oh, yeah, like in the South Park episode?
Yeah, no, but like that...
The SARS blankets?
Yeah, the SARS blankets. That's what we, really did early on.
No, yeah, I know.
Right? So, like, I don't know. I thought the show does a really good job of not letting you fully like any character because they're all kind of shitty people. And early on, I thought, like, Doug and the Americans were going to be kind of the good guy, and it was almost going to be about that, and that's the last thing it's about. They're just as shitty.
Oh, yeah, no, everybody's self-interested. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, okay, so yeah, this is the part where Doug Stamper lets him know he knows where the factory is, and then he says, in his completely, as always, in every show that he's in, Doug Stamper voice, ask your chemist about the French experiment.
I wonder how Doug Stamper feels about us not knowing his real name.
I'm pretty sure it's Dundragon or Dun... Not Dundragon.
Dundragon Dweedlebun, famous for Doug Stamper on House of Cards. Oh God.
Is it
I don't
not?
know
So it's not Dundragon.
I don't know. Know what fucking sucks about IMDb is you can't type in the character name. You have to know the actor name. So then
I got this. IMDb Dundragon.
It's Michael Kelly plays Doug Stamper.
Okay, hold on. I got this.
I just told you who it is.
We are so fucking official here, doing everything by the books, right? Oh, I was pretty close. I said Dumb Dragon.
It's Michael Kelly.
Dumbarton.
Dunbarton?
Yeah, Michael Kelly is the name of the actor, but his character's name is Dumbarton.
Oh, okay. Now that I was confused, I thought you were saying the actor's name was, but okay, the character here is Dumbarton.
The actor's name is just Dumb Dragon. He's like Prince or Madonna, just with a way stupider name.
Yeah. Anyway, he's trying to tell him, like, I'm not going to have gunpowder for you anytime soon. He's like, well, that's cool. We're going to be slaughtered if we don't have it in 8 days, and I'll make sure you hang for it, and I know where your shit's at. So then he has to go off to his new sidekick and explain to him the French experiment, which he kind of scoffs at. And I mean, I'm sure this is a real historical anecdote of some sort, but there's a way to pull it off. It's super risky. It's kind of like making, meth in an RV. You have to stir all day, and if there's the slightest mistake, the whole place is going to go up in flames. But they don't really have a choice because it's basically die from hanging in 8 days or maybe die while attempting this. And I love that now that his son is involved, like, he's going to die too.
Yeah, so that's cool, I guess. I mean, whatever. So what can you say about that? So the only thing that I think that we really need to talk about that we hadn't really gotten into is... And we had briefly touched on it, but the thing with George Chichester, who is the African-American guy who goes into Cooper's office, and I guess he's been sending a letter annually about this slave ship that sank with 280 people on it. And so he's been wanting to investigate this for years, and now because Coop wants to do anything he can to get the East India Trading Co., he's going to basically let George Chichester, perform his inquiry about it. But it's because the reason why, and I thought it was pretty clever the way that the show set it up, because if they just went ahead and tried to put some sort of punitive measures against the East India Trading Co., well, Sir Stuart Strange is completely insulated. Like, they can't get at him that way. He'll just make a lesser dude have to take the fall for it. Whereas this thing kind of could follow him back to days where he wasn't quite as insulated, and so a time where he could actually be either prosecuted or at least vilified for something horrible that he'd done.
Yeah, absolutely. This might go back to when Delaney was working for him and talks about the evil that he was a part of. Like,
we've seen the scenes where the slaves are reaching up through the grates and stuff. Like, remember when Delaney's on the boat and he drops down to the ground, starts doing shit on the ground, having all the flashbacks?
Yeah, and you start to see them. So we know what he's been involved in. Now it's starting to come to light. If you can break down for me, because I feel like in this regard I have kind of lost the plot. What Coop is working for the Crown?
Yes.
What is the Crown's concern with the company? Aren't they shouldn't they be friends?
The Crown and the company always had a tenuous friendship, but East India Trading Co. occasionally would do things that were more like in their best interest, and that wasn't always aligned with the Crown. So you could tell the Prince Regent didn't like them, but they were technically allied. But in this regard, when it comes to Delaney, he's kind of pitted them against each other and used them both as a check and balance for his own safety. And so that's what's happened. He's played them against each other. So what was already like a behind closed doors contemptuous relationship now is like they flat out want each other to fail.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kind of. It wasn't the best explanation, but I do what I can for the good of my man.
You know it.
So I do like that Sir Stuart Strange actually, it seems like, really rattled about what's happening here. Like, he looks panicked.
Yeah, he is not happy about the way things are playing out. Things continue to work better and better for Delaney. All this saltpeter and shit has gone, and they have not been able to find the culprit. And ultimately, I don't know how the law works, but if it's Delaney and they hang him, the land still goes to the Americas.
Yeah, he's not getting hung. Like, that's just not happening.
So, yeah, like, he even though he's convinced it's Delaney, ultimately they're just trying to find the fucking saltpeter, because what are they going to do? Hang everyone but him? So it continues just to be this tangled mess that he doesn't know how to deal with. He's not used to having, like, I think what he's used to is the tenuous relationship with the Crown and other, business partners where it's kind of light arrangements and pushback, but ultimately everyone gets along because everyone's being, fed, right? Whereas this is like not someone that's wanted to play nice. He wanted them to be an enemy from the get-go. On top of that, he has some, business venture he's wanted to kind of, it seems like now at this point he does actually have an interest in something business related. He just doesn't know how to handle it. Delaney has the best of him at every turn.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I told you earlier on the show, IMDb, everybody, this is now being rated 9.1. I still like the show. I very much like the show. It's something I would definitely be watching regardless of whether or not we were covering it for Boob Tube Buddies. But I have to say 9.1, especially seeing as that's what Westworld is rated, that seems criminal to me that it's rated as highly as Westworld. I don't think it's even in the same stratosphere.
It's 0.1 above House of Cards as well, which also seems crazy to me.
That's wild. I mean, House of Cards, at least I could kind of see. I mean, House of Cards is more flawed than Westworld is, but still a fantastic show, and I think better than Taboo.
Well, and I also think the issue is that, one, I mean, I don't know if people are like me, but I haven't, excuse me, I haven't rated Taboo yet because it's a limited series and it's not over, whereas I'm sure plenty of people like see the first episode of the pilot and felt like I did, like it was great, and then just rate it based on that, and who knows if they're going to ever go back and re-rate it. But then what will happen, what I think will happen is the whole season will play out. People will talk, people will recommend it, people will then binge it, and then you see all these other ones come in. Because like a series like House of Cards, I looked at that, that's like 340,000 people have voted on it, and it's still at a fucking 9. Like, that's also impressive, the fact that word's gotten out.
Multiple seasons in. Yeah, that's a good point.
And even with 4 being like the weak point, which it's still a very good season, like it's more soap opera-y, it's still just like a strong show. So in my opinion...
Was that 4 or was that 3? For some reason I had it in my head that this last one was the 3rd season.
I think the last one was the 4th season. Pretty sure.
I might be wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, at this point, I would say there are... I mean, you're the much tougher reviewer than I am in terms of numbers. This is a show I probably would give an 8, but it's also because I just never watch a show that I think is a 2, so it kind of skews things. Going by your scale, this is probably a strong 7.
Yeah, to me it's probably like a 7.5.
Yeah. So
I guess that's a strong 7. I almost said 7.75, but I honestly don't think I'd be being sincere if I said that.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to undermine your morals.
Okay, so for those of you guys still with us as we went on to our crazy little IMDb tangent there, thank you very much for
reviews and polling and everything else.
Thank you very much for sticking around. We appreciate you guys listening, and again, you guys can check out everything on social media. It's got all the shows that we've got upcoming, which currently we're still running Black Mirror. I think we have 2 episodes remaining for the series on that one. And then about a week and a half after this comes out, you'll get your first episode of Big Little Lies, which is the HBO show, which the Boob Tube Buddies, Kristen and Bethany, are covering that one. And then Legion with Nathan and Mothman, I should be out pretty much the same time this episode releases. So if you check that out, if you checked out that show, you should definitely check out Mothman and Nate's take on it.
Yes, absolutely. Check it all out. We have tons of different shows out there. We're going to continue to bring you great content, be a part of the conversation. Also start to let us know what shows, as more and more shows get announced, more and more shows get actual dates as to when they're coming out. Let us know what you're interested in us covering. Currently, I am most interested in that Stranger Things teaser.
Oh, hell yeah. That's not for a while, though, Halloween, but yeah that was fucking great. But, okay, anyway, Mothman, why don't you tie a bow on this bitch?
We'll see you next week, little buddies.